The Last of Us isn't just a couple games anymore. It's approaching a status where, if executed correctly and with the right care, it could become gaming's most realized universe. Something big is happening that you won't start to fully see until 2023. With the release of The Last of Us Part 1, it's starting to make more sense than was initially thought. Part 1 will likely go on to be 2022's most polarizing release. Price tag, purpose served, and the definition of a remake is where the dividing conversation will likely never settle. However, the bigger picture is something that has to be considered. When you line all of the pieces up, it makes sense why specific moves are being made. It won't be until the HBO show and factions are in the eyes and hands of the public that everything takes shape. The Last of Us Part 1 had much more of a role to play in this vision than most will be willing to give it credit for. You have to be able to appreciate the creative act of endeavors like these to find the answers you're looking for. The Last of Us was an easy story to fall in love with in 2013. It was leading in visuals, character writing, and world building. It's no surprise why it took on the fanbase it did after the last almost 10 years. Many have played it an outrageous amount of times over the last decade, so it makes sense to doubt that a remake would be needed considering you can still find that defining experience on PlayStation 3 or 4. After weighing all of the options pre-release, what I found in Part 1 was very different from what I thought I was in for. Playing The Last of Us Part 1 felt like playing the game for the very first time again in 2013. A lot of this is owed to the new character models and the preserving of the original actors' performances. You would be surprised how much your connection to these characters can deepen when they make a multi-generation graphical leap. If this game has at any point connected with you, Part 1 will reinforce it. The subtleties in each character's face movements combined with them looking like real people makes the overall game far more immersive than it originally was. As visual tech has incrementally improved year after year, you start to wonder how much further it can go. This question was being asked in 2009 when Naughty Dog launched Uncharted 2, but here we are, and as if it wasn't achieved enough in Uncharted 4 or The Last of Us Part 2, Naughty Dog's characters feel more alive than ever. The Last of Us has a lot of very intense moments. I thought I was desensitized to Sarah dying. I've seen it a dozen times. Not anymore. I thought I wouldn't have a reaction to Henry's death. I did. Seeing these characters look like this, seeing every tiny detail on their face as their life ends, elevates the game's crushing moments to heights I didn't know it could reach. This works to the same effect with the game's most intimate moments of Joel and Ellie's relationship. When a game based in such intimate moments gets an enhancement like this, it's a much larger change to the experience than what you would imagine. This isn't just a graphical overhaul, it's a full realization. Since The Last of Us will be expanding as an IP, it made sense to bring the original game into Naughty Dog's 2022 standards. We're at the beginning of something big that will start to unfold next year. And if all that was needed to have everything share a visual parody was to give The Last of Us and Left Behind a remake, then it always made sense to make that call. Once Factions is out, it along with The Last of Us Part 1, Left Behind, and Part 2 will all exist in the same visual quality, and that will greatly benefit new players coming into the fold. It's pretty compelling that games that all will have come out in the span of 10 years will all look close to identical. That kind of continuity doesn't exist for most franchises. Naughty Dog saw their chance and they took it. The Last of Us as a product will be as accessible as possible and in the best position to succeed as a whole. Part 1, at the very least, is a celebration of The Last of Us. Upon completing the game, you have a multitude of different things to unlock with the points you obtained for getting collectibles and making progress in-game. The model viewer being one of the new additions not long after its inclusion in Part 2. Taking a look at its contents, you can really see what work was done on the various character models in the game. Joel and Ellie have also been given a ton of new skins to mess with, even allowing Joel from The Last of Us Part 2 or having a young Ellie wearing Part 2 Ellie's new outfit. Gameplay modifiers make their return, and of course its overwhelming number of accessibility options. It's the definitive version of The Last of Us. Quality of life features added clean up any dated PS3 annoyances. Joel's movements feel much smoother and responsive. The horse gameplay and the workbench improvements are that of Part 2. And one of my personal favorites, you no longer have to crouch in place to listen to audio logs. You can actually just walk around with it in your hand, which is very appreciated while exploring a massive hospital. The AI improvements are some of the most notable. They're so much more aggressive than they once were. If they think they will land a kill shot, they're willing to risk it all. If you're lower on health, they will not hesitate to rush you for a melee fight. The unique pathing of the AI and having them be on less of a script makes every encounter much more replayable. Of course, they will have certain paths that they take, but once the fight has started, they get interesting. The only way to fully wrap your head around the importance of The Last of Us Part 1 is to play it. Whether it be today, tomorrow, or next year at a different price point, it will be there. No amount of marketing could have explained the experience that I had with it. Surely some will be different depending on your varying degrees of vulnerability to storytelling. It's not as controversial of a product as it seems considering what was done here. It's worth viewing its existence from the standpoint of what it's doing for the Last of Us IP as a whole rather than what it means in the short term just for you. Only there will the uninterested find their answers. There's a chess game being played right now, and as of September 2nd, the pieces have started to move. The community of this series has never been more divided.
What the fuck are you looking at?
Quite honestly, it sucks and it's exhausting. It's not often that an IP gets the amount of attention that The Last of Us is getting. There are so many projects in the works. Between The Last of Us Part 1, the HBO show, and factions, hopefully we can have the reset this community so desperately needs. Discussion can be fun, but it's gotten so far out of hand. Some people really do need to look for the light. If you are a fan of The Last of Us, give Part 1 a shot whenever you decide that it's worth it. You will likely be surprised with what you find. I know I was. The vision is clearly so much bigger than the release of a single remake. Let's watch it unfold first. I thought I had my head wrapped around Joel and Ellie's story, but it ended up running much deeper than that. It feels like the way the game was always meant to be presented is out there now. After completing Part 1, it feels like The Last of Us is just getting started again. Perhaps the exact feeling Naughty Dog wants to convey considering what's on the horizon in the near future. If you enjoy this IP at any level, it seems you're about to be taken care of. Games, TV, comics, multiplayers, every vertical has or is being tackled. I'm hopeful for a cultural reset somewhere along the way.